How you doing, everyone? Welcome back to NRL Fantasy Analysis. We're going to be going through a pretty in-depth video here on a lot of the changes that have been made. So this has probably been the biggest season of actual changes to how the game's played, in terms of trades, in terms of point scoring that we've had in a long time. Since they made the big change with the bench in terms of your picking your 4 reserves and also your emergencies. This is definitely by far the biggest change since then. So we've got some changes here with the trades and also the point scoring. We're going to start up top with our trade changes. So this year they've increased the trades by 2, which is ideal, especially in a year that's going to be very well affected by COVID with the new strain going around and how many cases there's been, especially in Sydney recently. But I imagine there'll be a lot of people, they're going to be testing every day, especially before game days and stuff. And we could see a lot of changes literally an hour before kickoff when final teams are selected there. And I think the extra trades is going to be important with that. What also has changed here is they actually are going to be held back from a few trades. So through the first 19 rounds, we're going to see 32 trades available, and then they're actually going to hold back 4. So you're actually going to unlock those 4 for the last 6 rounds. So that's very interesting, especially for the majority of people that are very good at just burning through their trades. This will be something that's going to be very helpful in the back end for everyone. Especially if you can't hold on to them, and if you happen to be able to hold on to a bunch, then you get to round sort of 19, 20 when you're trying to create your final squad using that last few of your normal trades and then getting your 4 unlocked. I think is going to be pretty cool, but we won't know exactly what the best strategy is going to be this year with that until I suppose probably the first month or so when we see what's happening with COVID and the protocols around that and how many people are going to be missing games. Obviously, we've still got a couple of months until our first game and what the cases, etc., are going to be like. Is they're clearly going to be in the bubble again. So you'd hope that the majority of them aren't partying or aren't getting in trouble for that, with suspensions and things like that, along with actually just getting COVID in general. So that's that there. And the other change with the trades has been that you're going to be given 2 trades per week for rounds 1 to 12, which is obviously pretty normal. But following that from rounds 13 to actually 19 there, I'll change that, we get to see 4 trades per week. So obviously this is the time period where it's going to be Origin. We're probably going to be trying to make 3 to 4 trades in a bunch of those Origin weeks anyway to make sure that you have enough on the park to get the most points available, depending on how many trades you've used up until that point. But that's where most people are going to burn through all their trades. And I'd say if you're looking at, most people will go pretty close to 2 per week for the first sort of 12 rounds. I'd say even if you saved a few, like using all the trades would be 24 through that first 12 rounds. And I'd say most people will probably use 20, let's say, for example. Leaves you with 12 for that next 7 rounds there, 13 to 19. And you can do 4 per round. That'd be 28 in total. So a lot of people will be pretty well burnt out by, let's say, round 15 to 17, and then get that extra few at the end. So be based on how well your team's going at the start of the year. Are you able to hold a few trades there? Are you not able to hold the trades for that point? Depending on your strategy there is going to be the big thing. But we'll work out a little bit close to the season, but also through that first month or so, what the best strategy is going to be to use with this type of changes to the trades, and we'll go from there. So the second part here is going to be our point scoring changes, and there's actually a bunch. So I've highlighted the ones here. This is straight off the NRL Fantasy website. You can jump on and check that if you like. Just in the help section, you go into classic guidelines, guys, and you can go through all of this here. But obviously, I'm just going to jump in and explain it all for you, so it makes it nice and easy. So in terms of the point scoring, we have one that I feel like is not too big of a change, and that's the added 6 again infringements there. So a ruck infringement inside 10. So anytime they go 6 again, the person that actually caused the infringement is going to get -1 this time. So that was a bit of a loophole last year. If they actually blew the penalty, you'd get a -2. But anything, it was a quick inside 10, or they just quickly played on. They didn't take any points off. So this time it's going to be -1. And look, I don't think it's ideal for the guys in the middle, guys that are holding up the ruck, making the majority of the tackles. I don't think it's great. But when you see how many 6s agains there were last year, there were a fair few, right? But I don't think the -1 is going to make a big difference overall, for example, in my point of view. Because I feel like if you you're probably a good chance of causing one or two of them in a game if you're a middle forward or whatever you are in the guys that are making the majority of the tackles there. And a -1 or -2 isn't going to be too much of an issue. The majority of issues that you have with negatives is going to be in the missed tackles for those guys. So yeah, I don't see it as too big of an issue. I also think the game might be a little bit faster in that first sort of 30 to 40 meters with the new rule there of there being an actual penalty blown in that first 40 meters, and then they can after that. So your first 40 coming out of trouble, and then following that, they'll bring it back to the 6 again. So, yeah, obviously there's just too many opportunities for the defensive sides last year to hold players up, take that little bit extra time so you can set your defensive line, and just really slow the game down there just because you had to, because the game's so fast, and when guys are playing big minutes, they're getting very tired very quickly. So this is why that rule's been brought in. I'm really happy that it has. And also, the -1 in fantasy, I think makes a lot of sense and brings it closer to the real game. All right, the next one's pretty cool. I like the escape from in goal because unless you're getting tackle busts in that, breaking through a couple of tackles to actually get out of goal, this one doesn't. This was never really shown in fantasy terms, and also how good that play is in real life. So I think this is a great idea to add 2 points to anyone that can escape from in goal, and the majority of guys are going to get it. Going to be your wingers, possibly your centers, but mainly wingers and fullbacks, and this is going to be great for them. But I doubt it's going to have a major impact. They might get one a game. You don't see it too often, right, where they do really well to get out of the in goal. But this is also going to include the ones where they only kick it just a meter into the in goal, and it's just to catch and dive back into the field of play. So those ones will happen fairly regularly. So yeah, I'm expecting maybe an extra 2 points a game for the fullbacks and wingers, which I think is fairly helpful, right? But it's not going to be a major impact as some of the other rule changes here. Next one's going to be the altered, the kick meter points. So the total is divided by 30 now. So before it was divided by 20. So basically for every 20 kick meters, you got 1 point. So now it's for every 30 kick meters, you get 1 point. And put this little example here. If you're someone that kicks for 300 meters, that would be 15 points. Now it's going to be 10. So, if you're someone like Cleary, who, most of the time kicks for around 600 kick meters, then you're losing 10 points. Because before that was 30 points, and now it's going to be 20. So I think this is probably the biggest one that's going to affect just obviously one certain position in the halves there. And we spoke about it. I'll speak about it a little bit later. But the halves, I feel, and the wing fullbacks really dominated last year more than previous years, where it was more the hookers with getting lots of tackles and running out of dummy half. We didn't see that as much last year as we have in previous years. Just because I think last year there was a lot of teams were spreading it wide pretty quickly, and that's where a lot of the outside backs were doing really well. So this one I think is a big change, and we'll talk about some of the players that will be affected by this when I move into the fantasy screen. But that's that one. That's a pretty big one, guys. Just be aware of that when you're selecting your side. So Cleary will be down a few basis points just off that alone. So you'd be thinking somewhere between 5 and 10 points that he'd lose. There was even games where he was kicking for 800, 900. So there's 15 points, something to think about. Next one I think is also the big one, and it's tackle busts. They've been reduced from 3 to 2. And you think of guys like David Fafita who were picking up 10 tackle breaks a game, and they're going from getting 30 points from that down to 20, for example, if he was to get 10. So Fafita, Brian To'o, plenty of games where you see him get 8 to 10 tackle breaks. It won't change how anyone plays, so they're still going to get their bust, but it's just going to be worth a little bit less. So just be aware of that when you're thinking about those guns, especially coming into your side. But across the board, this is most people in the game get tackle breaks at some point, so it's going to affect everyone. There's just a few players like Fafita and To'o, and a few others that are going to be affected more than those guys that than the majority of people. So just keep that in mind when you're making your side as well. And also the last one there is going to be offload. So split into an offload into someone's hands, so an effective offload, we'll call it, is going to be 4 points, and then one that just goes to the ground and gets picked up. A lot of time they throw it out the back, it bounces around, it picks up, and they don't really make any meters, or the game's actually slowed down from that offload, so it doesn't really help them at all. So I think the increase to 4, and an offload is so effective in the game of NRL. So for them to reward that a little bit more, I think the majority of tackle busts are not worth 3. Whereas you say a really good offload, you can get 4 for it. I think is it's a lot of points, right? It's the same as the try saver or any of these ones in terms of stripping the ball on the line. You get 4 points nowadays. Things like that, obviously pretty big plays. And I think an effective offload is also a very is deserving of a big play rather than just a boot down the field getting you 3 or 4 points. This is going to be something that could lead to a good try, for example. So I think this is a really good one, and obviously it's a big change, but it's going to affect those middle forwards, I'd say, a little bit more. And the guys that offload regularly. There's not too many guys that are very much like a 3 to 4 offloader a game type player, but Welch was someone who did that a little bit, so that's something to think about, that you can pick up an extra sort of 4 to 6 points maybe for the majority of his offloads that are actually hitting the guy's chest when he passes it. So that's that one there, and as I said, we'll talk about it in a sec. But my thoughts here. Best impact here is going to be in the middle forwards and the hookers. So the guys that are going to be tackling, yes, they might lose 1 point in that inside 10 or something like that, but I think that's going to happen less and less this year than it did last year, just for the rules that the rule changes that I was talking about. And those guys that have the ability to offload just is going to help the most. And the rest of them, it's been brought back to earth a little bit. The guys that are the halves and wing fullbacks are getting the majority of the kick meters, and also a lot more of the tackle breaks are going to be your fullbacks, for example. I think they're going to be altered the most. And I think everyone is probably brought back to the pack, but everyone's a little bit more even now, apart from the centers, who are very much usually not as strong in terms of their averages as the other positions there. So I thought that was pretty interesting, guys. And we're going to go through a few of the players now, and I think going to be effective. We'll just go through the top guys, and Cleary, obviously, mainly just with the kicking, he might lose but somewhere between 5 and sort of 12 points per game, I'd imagine, for Cleary on his average there, and him at 92.8. Will he be able to keep that up with that reduction? I definitely think it hurts, but they're still going to be great, and he's still going to be great coming off his shoulder surgery. He came back and still scored amazingly with the shoulder issue, sort of carrying a little bit. Dvojevic is going to lose a bunch of his tackle breaks, but he's not the biggest tackle break guy. When you think of guys like Tedesco or Fafita, they're a little bit more tackle break savvy than Tommy. Obviously, he was just so dominant with the amount of tries and try assists that he could provide and put on for the Manly guys this year. You're paying $1 million for him to with a bit of a reduction in tackle breaks, but then him getting out of in goal, you'll pick up might at least 2 points a game. I'd say one from him, one of those out of goal efforts. So bit of a wash, I'd say, with him being that type of player that's just putting on tries and scoring tries. Doesn't, half the time he goes through untouched anyway. Cherry Evans, obviously a big kicker of the ball, but someone who doesn't mind an offload as well. So I can see him making up a couple of points through that. I don't see too much of a change with Daly. Fafita, I see him losing a little bit on his average, so I personally won't be picking him to start the year. I just think there's a few guys that are a little bit cheaper. Payne Haas, I think, is going to be really solid. He's someone who can offload as well, so I think he'll get some benefit out of that. But a middle forward that tackles well, runs hard. He's a tackle busting guy, but he's also like a 50 to 55 point base stat kind of guy. Papali'i is also a sort of a base stat guy. Cam McInnes in the middle there, tackling hard. The old offload, I don't think his role is going to change too much. And obviously the wing fullbacks and halfbacks are going to come back to earth a little bit with their scoring, a few points. Like we're talking 5 points here. So McInnes, Mane, Cook, I don't see him changing too much, somewhere around that 60 average again. Guys like Tohu Harris, Jackson, all guys that are just hard workers in the middle. I don't see it changing too much for them in terms of their scoring for the year. Kiri, it'll be interesting to see him out of 63 average last year. You get him at a little bit of a discount, but that kicking, he's going to do the majority of kicking in general play. Will that affect him much? So there's a few guys that it might affect guys, but overall, I don't see it changing the game too much. Like if you actually look at the rules that they brought in last year with the stripping, the try saving, turnover tackle, all that kind of stuff there, I think that probably changed the scoring a lot more than all these will put together, because you got a couple that go up, right? You got the offloads that improve. Sorry, that's the only one that really improves. But then the other one, and the escape from in goal, and then the other 3 go down. So I just see it being a wash overall. Whereas the turnover tackle one was something that brought a fair bit to the game and increased a bunch of guys scoring. There was guys that were getting at minimum 1 a game. A lot of time 2 and 3. And that was just from, if you're someone that made 50 tackles a game last year, you were getting between 1 and 3 turnover tackles, whether that was a one-on-one strip, whether that was just forcing an error. Getting them to drop the ball was an easy 4 points, and then tackling over the line and stuff like that. If they lost the ball over the line trying to score and you were tackling them, then you get 4 points for that. So that changed the game a lot more than I think these will. But again, it's hard to know exactly how much it's going to affect things. When we mentioned the turnover thing last year, and a lot of different people were saying I don't think it would change the game too much, and it really did. So yeah, I'm very much interested in the tackle bust one, because I'm glad it's down to 2, because those sideways runs were a little bit annoying. Let's say that. But yeah, overall, guys, that's all I want to talk about in terms of the point scoring and also the trades. Biggest thing from here, guys, is obviously we're pretty early in the season. Just don't stress too much about changing too many things in your team. Just sit there and look at the guys that you're really keen to have in your side, and just learn around that. That's my suggestion across this time. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, I'd suggest to do so. We're going to do a lot of learning over this next period. I saw a couple of guys posting on the Facebook groups, and I think it'd be good to just encourage, if you can help, if you would like to help out the channel, just encouraging some of those guys that are especially new to the game. Instead of telling them to delete the app or whatever else, if you can direct them to the channel or the podcast, that would be ideal, I think, especially in this month or two. Rather bring their community together than hating on each other and no one wanting to actually comment or make a post on those Facebook groups. So yeah, do that. That would be ideal, and leave a like on this video so we can get more people seeing it naturally, rather than just through the Discord or something like that. So I'll pop the link for the Discord in the description as well. We'll start being active in that across, especially through February and into the season. But as always, guys, hope you enjoyed this. We'll catch you in the next video where we're going to be talking about a few more of those interesting options from a bunch of teams. See you, team.